just like to welcome everybody to a special, super special, we gonna call it What is Money session today. I happen to have with me Power Tax LLC professional, Mr. Steve Hutchinson. And this guy right here, I'm gonna tell y'all, you just gonna know by his language and the things that he talks about that he absolutely, excuse my language, knows 100% of what he's doing. He's gonna break down what actually money is. Maybe he'll tell us what to do with it if we ever get some. And he'll also tell us about his Carrot Bar career and how he's been able to change people's lives with just their thinking. Mr. Steve, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm excellent.
It's very good to be with you. You're a hard man to find. Listen, you got it going on, all that financial empowerment information that you're giving people. And I just wanted to get the viewers a little bit of your time. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your backstory?
Yeah, I was born in New York City. Born in Manhattan. Yep, 1959.
Uh-oh.
That's right. Grew up in New York City, so I was exposed or overexposed to a lot of different things and a lot of different walks of life. And so I saw poverty. I saw middle income life. I saw extreme riches, wealth. People who live on Fifth Avenue, Central Park West. That's so, I was exposed. To these things. I never really understood it, though,
okay.
Or why it was that some people are in this area and some people are here. And most of the people who are down here don't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So I never understood, well, why are there so many people here and they don't want to be there? So I think that kind of awakened like a curiosity in me to try to understand about money, since money seems to be the pursuit that everyone that I knew, everyone I grew up with, everyone around me is in hot pursuit of money. I can't think of a single person who's not in pursuit of money. And even people tell me, you know what, I don't really like money, or I don't really care about money. They work like 40 hours a week, and they don't even care about money. You know what I'm saying? Like, really?
A good friend of mine told me, he said money's not everything, but he said he finds it very hard to breathe if he doesn't have any. How about that? Tell us, growing up in the city, what were some of your desires?
I wanted to be rich. I wanted lots of money. I wanted convenience, luxuries, admiration. Not so much fame. I don't know if I ever really wanted to be famous, but I did definitely want the conveniences, the luxuries of life. I want the better things of life. I wanted to live amongst wealthy people. That was my ambition. That was my desire. Though premature it may have been, or distorted, or even for the wrong purposes. But that's just what I wanted, because I saw choices. So I chose, well, I don't want to be poor.
Right.
I don't want to be impoverished. I don't want to have to work every day for an insufficient paycheck. I want excess, because I saw excess. So I'm thinking, hey, excess is what I should have. That's what I wanted.
Looking at that from, a big time New York City kind of eyeglass, what were some external struggles, that may have came along with that? Like,
as far as living in New York City, well, New York City is overcrowded.
Okay.
It's a very intense place. It's like a pressure cooker. It's very competitive. And there's a shortage of everything in New York.
Wow.
Okay, so anything that you really want to do in a city like New York, there's already a line of 1 million people ahead of you, so you got to get in the back of the line. Unless you can cut it, which means that you have to have some inside. It's like insider trading, right? Like, which is considered to be illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But insider trading is probably, in reality, the way most wealthy people are able to become wealthy and maintain their wealth. It's by getting some type of inside information. Because if you're just functioning off of the ordinary platform of knowledge and information like that comes from the university system, or comes from the schooling system, or comes from other people who have never really pierced into a higher realm of financial understanding, then chances are you're just going to have to get online and wait your turn, which may never come because it's just too competitive,
Right.
which is one of the reasons why I left New York City at 25. I escaped from New York because it was too competitive, it was too claustrophobic, okay, and a shortage of space in New York City. And as I mentioned, you have the extremes in New York City. So you have people who are actually quite impoverished, and then you have people who have excessive access to wealth and displays of wealth. So my challenge was to get some type of balance, to be healthy. It's very unhealthy to be at either extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So I was seeking some type of balance. So I decided I got to get the hell out of here.
What was the wall, or shall I say the opportunity that you saw that made you think, look, this is definitely not for me. I'm out of New York. What did you see in the future for yourself?
Well, one of the things that actually was like a tipping point for me was, I remember I heard a person say, I would rather be a bum on the street of New York than to live anywhere else.
Wow.
And when I heard that type of fanatical concept and idea about New York, I felt that I had to get out of there. It's like it's too much because it is an extreme. It's for extremists and fanatics.
Mm-hmm.
People who are fanatic. A lot of fanatics live in New York, and they think that success is just being in New York. I did not consider that to be a success. I decided I wanted to and needed to explore beyond that and perhaps be an entrepreneur. I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I knew that I needed more space and that there were other options beyond the limitations of New York. New York City, Manhattan is an island.
Manhattan is an island.
It's an island. And like 8 million people live there. And about another 8 million come there to work. And everybody's just like crawling all over each other and trying to outdo each other. So I needed to get out of that environment, and I did.
Once you got out, what was the new opportunity that you discovered?
Well, actually, one of the first things I did is actually became a Hindu priest.
Get out of here.
I was a Hindu priest for 17 years. And I did a lot of introspection. So that was another extreme in one sense, but I went away from the extreme of materialism all the way to the other extreme of renunciation.
Okay.
Where I renounced all materialism, right? I didn't eat meat, chicken, fish, eggs, no gambling, no intoxication, no cigarettes, no caffeine, not even coffee, not even Coca-Cola, and no sex. So I was a monk, a Hindu priest for 17 years.
Wow, you talk about righteous.
Yeah, it was it was a soul searching experience. So in that experience, I wanted to understand more about myself, more about God, more about the world that I lived in. So that was another journey.
Wow.
Which really didn't have anything to do with my financial journey, but that was a journey nonetheless.
Wow. I'm sure our viewers want to know, because see, I know how financially intelligent you are. I want the viewers to know what led you to like your Karatbar's journey, your money vision. How did you get the idea, because I mean you've been all over the world, obviously, you know what I mean, and what took you there?
Well, I've been a few places. I've traveled to India a number of times. I've traveled around the United States. I've been to all 50 states. Including Hawaii and Alaska. So I've traveled all around the U.S. I've been to India, and on my way to India, I've stopped at a few other countries. But my pursuit, as far as finances are concerned, I just got a curiosity about money and finances. Since everybody is searching for money, just like in religion, everybody's searching for God.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the question then is, well, what is God? If we're all in pursuit of God, well, I think we need to know what we're pursuing so
Absolutely.
that we will know where to pursue it and we will know when we acquire it.
Exactly. Right.
So since everyone, the world over, is in hot pursuit of money, I want to know, what is money? What is it? So I started more of a philosophical journey to understand money more than just the pursuit of money. Because the pursuit is there, and I still pursue the acquisition of money, but I also wanted to balance that with a philosophical understanding of what money actually is. And in that pursuit, I actually discovered something about money and the difference between money and currency. And when I discovered that, I understood that currency, which are these bills that we keep in our pocket, are actually not money.
Okay.
And
What are they?
It's a currency that represents debt, actually.
Oh, wow.
So it's considered to be a debt instrument. The dollar that's printed by the Federal Reserve, for instance, is not actually money. It's actually a currency. And the currency represents something else. So the currency itself is not the actual money. Gold would be considered money. Okay? So acquiring gold as an asset, is actually a clearer understanding of money, because I want to understand, well, what is money? Since we're all in hot pursuit of it, what is it? Can anybody tell me what it is? And that was one of the things that I discovered, was that paper is a representation of debt. Yes,
Okay.
Actually it represents debt, because it's paper that is being created by the Federal Reserve, which is a bank. With that paper, they are then supplying money to the United States government by buying treasury notes and treasury bonds from the U.S., and it accumulates debt. And the representation of that is that the United States government is in $22 trillion of debt. So if they can create money,
which is
then why are we in debt?
Right. Oh, okay, yeah, even better.
Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Better
Then why
than
are we
debt
in
printing.
debt?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was a part of my journey. Like I said, I want to understand the philosophical aspects of money, which I think, for the most part, the thrust of the media, the thrust of the educational institutions, the thrust of the government, the thrust of the corporations and these other institutions are the pursuit of money without any definition of what money is. And people are working and working until their retirement in pursuit of money, but not even really knowing what it is.
So, what's your idea? Why do you think people work so hard if they don't even know what they're working for?
It's an illusion. It's an illusion. And it's a type of conditioning. And it's a type of programming. Programming. And again, if we see, we are programmed. Where's most of our programming come from? There's an equation that I like to use. I like to say that a robot, a computer, and a human being have something in common.
Okay.
And one of the things that they have in common is that they are all programmable.
Wow.
Okay? You can program a robot, you can program a computer, and you can program a human.
Human being, absolutely.
Okay, and how do you program a human being? Through their mind. Okay, so if the mind is the programming, then you can put in the software. The software would be the messages that you feed into the mind. Just like the software that you feed into your computer is going to determine whatever that computer can do. The computer cannot do anything that you do not give it software to do.
The program.
Exactly. If the program is not there, it cannot function. Similarly with a robot. So a human being is only going to behave according to their programming. They're not going to do anything beyond that unless they go beyond their programming, which is rare. Because then that requires introspection, that requires deep consideration, meditation, observation.
Right.
Like,
they got to reevaluate their whole person after that.
And who has time to do that because the bills are due?
And we're in pursuit of The money.
Right? We're opposite. So we've been like, like a toy, like when you wind up a toy and it goes, marching along. Just get out the way because it's going to keep marching until it winds out and dies. So we've been tuned up, we've been programmed to pursue money. And we really believe it. And since we believe it and we're programmed that way, we function that way.
Mr. Steve, you always talk to me about assets and wealth building. What would you say to the person who's trading all their time for money?
Trading time for money is part of the programming. And we have been programmed to believe that this is a feasible and it is an intelligent behavior and activity. Now, if we look at it analytically, we will look at the balance. There's about 1% or maybe 5% of the, let's just take American population of extremely wealthy people.
Okay.
Who do not work for money. Okay? Because there's another concept besides trading time for money, and that would be trading money for time. So if I've been programmed to work for money, then psychologically that puts me at a disadvantage because I am working for money. So that's just like you say, well, who do you work for? I work for ABC Corporation, or I work for my boss. So who's in a superior position there? The boss. The company, because I work for them. So I'm putting myself at a disadvantage psychologically. Because we are humans, we can only function according to what we believe. Our belief system is a program. Okay?
Absolutely.
So if I believe that I am to work for money, then that's my programming. That's what I will do. I will trade my time for money. So if you pay me $10 an hour, or $7.50 an hour, or $100 an hour, or $1,000 an hour, I will work to pursue that and feel satisfied with that. But we can turn that around.
How do we do that, Mr. Steve?
We can turn that around by changing how we understand money. Because if I understand money, right now I've been programmed to pursue money and to work for money. Now the question is, as we began, what is money?
What is money?
And what is money for?
What is money for? Now that you told us what we're doing, what is money for?
Exactly. What is money for? That is the question. I have a very simple template that I use for explaining what is money. I've explained it to 7-year-olds. I've explained it to 70-year-olds. And they agree that it makes sense. The first statement is a negative statement. And that negative statement is money is not meant to be spent.
That's strong. Did you hear that?
Okay.
GoldSavings, did you hear that?
Not meant to be spent. And that has two major effects. One is that when you say money is not meant to be spent, that sounds like a complete contradiction. Of course money is meant to be spent.
Right.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Right.
So it's a challenge. And that's my purpose. My purpose of making that statement is to challenge your belief about money. Because people also believe that they don't really have any belief about money. They just think that whatever they think is right. So in order for you to actually deprogram, you have to challenge your programming.
Right.
So if in our environment, if our program is never challenged, we're never going to change the programming. We're going to go along with the program.
You're saying we're never going to elevate?
Never. Right? Because we're going to fit in, and this is what everybody's doing.
Fitting in with the masses.
Everybody. Hey, look, Amazon is hiring. You know what I'm saying? They're hiring everybody. They're offering jobs. And that is a scenario. But I'm just saying that we have to see beyond that. What is the purpose of a job? What is the purpose of money? And we have to give it purpose. We have to give it definition. Instead of being passive in this relationship and just being told what it is and what we should be doing. So what is money for? Okay, so the first thing is money is not meant to be spent. The second part of that is to awaken the question, okay, then what is it for?
What is it for?
What is it for? That
question.
is a very good question. I have really never really heard anyone even ask that question.
Wow.
Which means that we already have a predisposed belief, that we already know what it's for.
Judgment, right. Right.
It almost becomes like a religion. Right? When a person is fixed in a religion, you cannot tell them anything contrary, or they think you are attacking them. You're attacking their God. Oh, you know what I'm saying? That could end it very, very, in a very uncomfortable way.
Right.
Right? Because they feel that you're challenging their belief in their religion and in their God and so forth. So that question challenges a belief in money. And that just shows how deep our belief is in money. If you look at a dollar, there are a number of things written on the dollar.
Do we have a dollar where you could go through that with us?
Let's pull
Let's see if we got a dollar.
You got a dollar?
How y'all doing today? GoldSavings.Info. We getting to it with Mr. Steve right now. Listen, what's money for? What's it all about? This the only dollar I got in my pocket, Mr. Steve. Maybe you can break it down for us.
Okay. If we look, there's a couple of things that it says. One of the things, interestingly, that it says is, in God we trust.
Now, why would the dollar bill say that?
That is a very good question. It literally says,
It does
in God we trust. What does the dollar have to do with God?
At all.
Okay? So, the
I want to ask you a
implication...
question so bad, but I don't want to blow it. I want to ask you a question. Oh, my God. I want to know.
Okay, in God we trust. And then if we flip it on the other side, there's a face on there.
Right.
On every bill that we get, every dollar has a face. Okay? And that face is representative of a particular group of people. It is a representative of a government. So the subjective conclusion is that in God we trust. Okay? Face, government, hot pursuit.
Wow.
By implication, money becomes God. This is what I'm working for. In God we trust. Here's an image, a graven image, which you say you're not supposed to worship graven images.
Right.
But we're working a minimum of 40 hours
to get
a
these
week
pictures
to
of
get
these people.
Yeah. And so look at the psychological
Right.
subliminal.
Right.
Might we say the subliminal message.
Right.
Okay? And here's another that's not subliminal, but if you read it right on the top of the dollar, what does it say?
Federal Reserve note.
Federal Reserve note.
So these are notes from the Federal Reserve. I'm
Yes.
guessing.
And what is a note?
I'm thinking a note is
A promissory note.
just saying if
It's
I
a
go
debt.
if I go there, they'll be able to give me $1 or something.
Okay, that's a good question. Actually,
A real dollar.
what is a real dollar? So
Okay.
if this is a Federal Reserve note, the first thing is, what is the Federal Reserve?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's a bank
Okay.
run by men whose faces are usually on here, or other men like them have their faces on here. They print this.
Okay.
They are printing this currency, giving it to us. Federal Reserve note refers to promissory note, which is a debt. It is a debt instrument. It says on a dollar that this instrument can satisfy debts. Okay? And there are other images on the dollar, which we're not going to get into right now. But point being, this dollar is a representation. We are in hot pursuit of it, but we are not analyzing it, not critiquing it, and we are simply receiving the subliminal message and following. And subliminal messages have actually like an effect of hypnosis. It's like being hypnotized. Okay? And a person who's hypnotized is under someone else's control without even knowing it. It's like being in the presence of a hypnotist. Once a hypnotist puts you under their control, they can control you. Now, without you being able to control yourself. So people are in hot pursuit of this, not even questioning it. This is also a fiat currency.
That's what I was going to ask about next. Isn't that a fiat currency?
It is a fiat currency. And what is fiat? Fiat currency means it has no intrinsic value. So you just ask, well, can you take this to the Federal Reserve and get something? Yeah, you take to the Federal Reserve and go to jail. That's what can happen because you don't get anything else. It has nothing to back it.
What do you mean? They print this all the time, Steve.
And people think that this is supported by gold.
Right.
I've had a number of people, I've asked people, what do you think is the relationship between the dollar and gold? And they say things like, oh, well, isn't the dollar backed by gold? Isn't it supported by gold? The dollar is not backed. Not only is it not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver. It's not backed by real estate. It's not backed by anything. Except maybe the military. Okay. Other than that, yes, it's not backed by anything.
Was this ever connected with gold?
Actually, it was, and that's a whole nother, like, very, I would say, in my personal opinion, like a very deceptive thing that happened with the currency in the United States, because the United States dollars used to actually be backed by gold.
Remember they used to say at the top, they used to say something about silver certificate or something like that.
Gold
One bearer
certificate.
demand. And
Yes.
so tell us about that.
Previously, in order for a government, United States government or any other government, to print a paper, because remember the paper was a representation, they had to have some type of asset. Because asset is the real money.
And they say that in a lot of banking terms, asset-backed securities. You see that on the side of banks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
the currency is supposed to be backed by an asset. And previously, there was backed by gold, backed by silver. So when you would receive one of these pieces of paper, it would say gold certificate, gold to be given to the bearer upon demand.
There it is. Given to the bearer upon demand.
Upon demand. So in other words, you will be able to take your paper, go into a bank, and say, here, I want my gold or my silver. The bank would literally have to take that paper and give you pure gold or pure silver. Okay.
What do they do now?
Now, there's nothing backing this currency. It is just paper. How? It is a promise.
How?
It is a promise.
What are they promising me? If this is debt money, what are they promising me?
They're promising you that this has value.
Wow, when it's really a debt instrument.
It is a debt instrument.
I was told that, I mean, I don't want to really get off what you're saying because it's excellent. And you taking me where I want to go. You just opening so many doors for me. I was told that this was the instrument of slaves, the debt. And that gold was the currency of the kings and queens.
Absolutely.
So they took us off of the gold, gave us this
without any education.
Wow.
Okay. So in other words, you still have a percentage, a large percentage of people who still think there's a relationship between the dollar and gold. And there is a relationship between the dollar and gold, but the relationship is an inverse relationship. That means that when the value of gold goes up, the value of your dollar goes down. When the value of gold goes down, the value of your dollar goes up. There's an inverse relationship because the dollar and the gold are, the dollar is no longer backed by gold.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay? But this education, this financial literacy is not shared. So the dollar looks the same pretty much. It looks like it looked when they were certificates. And because there's such a high rate of illiteracy also, most people don't read. They won't even read the dollar.
Read what's on the dollar, right?
Right. You know, just like many people, you know, in different religious traditions, how many people you think actually read their religious books? I was a Hindu priest for 17 years. And I would definitely say about 70% of the people who were devout followers never read a single book. And in the Hindu tradition, we have about 70 books that we studied. And most of them never even read a single book.
Wow.
So illiteracy has a lot to do with it. Curiosity has a lot to do with it. And being gullible has a lot to do with it.
So what should the people do now? Now that we know, because we all know that everybody's paying attention to Mr. Steve right now and his financial literacy program. What should we do now?
I would say you should understand that I basically say there are 3 things you should do with money. We talked about the negative one, right?
Okay.
Money is not meant to be spent. And I also suggest that we teach this to our children.
That's where it starts.
Highly recommend. Because this will begin the deprogramming of our children who are now all being programmed to become consumers. Workers, consumers. Workers, consumers. Remember, the workers and the consumers are simply supporting an artificial economy whereby those in the know, the very small minority, are enjoying all the luxuries and all the benefits of the economy.
Is that like the 1% that they speak about?
Yes. The 1%, the 2%, the 3%, the 4%, the 5%. Okay? Most of the wealth and the economy is dominated, and the resources in the economy are dominated and literally owned by a very, very small percentage of the population. And the great majority of the population are working class, just simply working or in poverty. There's a large percentage of the population that's in poverty. There's and then a huge percentage of the population is working class, which means that if they stop working, they're going to poverty. Now, they may be working and they may be making, $50,000 a year, $70,000 a year, $100,000 a year, or $150,000 a year. But if they can't stop working, they're not wealthy. Because if a person's making $150,000 a year, chances are, due to a lack of financial intelligence, they're probably living the lifestyle of $150,000 a year, right? So they got a bigger house than the person that making 50. They got a bigger car, more expensive car, you see? So if they stop too, they will also fall right down. So they're also on a treadmill. They're getting a bigger check, but they're still on a treadmill. That's why I say it doesn't matter whether you have a good job with benefits or you have a very mediocre job. You should be considering how can you secure your financial independence separate from that job. And you should use that job and the resources that you're getting, since you're in a good financial position. That's when you should definitely to have the mentality of a squirrel. Right? Okay. The squirrel knows the winter is coming. Right. And now it's spring and it's summer and everybody's out having fun. But the squirrel knows I have to put away these walnuts and these nuts for the winter, because the winter's coming.
Right. Without fail.
It's coming. I don't care how beautiful it is today. The winter is coming. So the squirrel plays a little bit, but the squirrel is working and putting them aside, because the squirrel knows when the winter comes, it's going to be a drought. So those of us who are working and doing good and making money, we fall into the hypnotism that, it's all good, it's good, it's always going to be good. No, that is a fallacy. That's a fallacy. So we should utilize our resources to put ourselves in a position where we can attain financial independence from the job. The job is not secured, it's not guaranteed. You can't leave it to your children. It's not a part of your estate. So assets and the acquisition of assets are the key to accumulating wealth. So if I have a good job, I'm making a lot of money, I should be using that money to accumulate assets that are going to work for me. Right. That are going to produce income, which is typically passive income. Right? But you have different types of income. You have earned income, portfolio income, passive income. And passive income is the foundation of the wealthy. When you have passive income from real estate investments, from stock investments, from business ownership, you don't have to work for money, because if you know what to do with your money will work for you.
That's smart. That's smart. What do you suggest?
There are 3 things you should do with money. 1, save. 2, invest. 3, start a business. Become a business owner. And I know, it's not everyone is cut out for all those things. But even if you're not, if you consider yourself to not be cut out to be a business owner, then you should invest in somebody else's business and take ownership in a passive way. And that way you can develop passive income.
Wow.
Passive, and that's another thing I think we should teach our children. We should teach our children there are 3 things to do with money. Save, invest, start a business. Save, invest, start a business. Every 5-year-old should know that.
Save, invest, buy business. 3 things, y'all.
That's right. And they should know the negative. Money is not meant to be spent. So start programming them so that they can end the cycle of working for money. And actually end the cycle of generational poverty, generational paper chase, and actually begin generational wealth, which is a foundation. Because if we can feed ourselves, if we can clothe ourselves, if we can house ourselves, if we can run our own businesses, now we can negotiate from a position of power. Because ultimately, that is what money should bring you, is power. If money doesn't produce power, then I'm still on the paper chase. I'm still being pulled by the string because I'm chasing the dollar. Because no matter how much of it I get, I don't know what to do with it. So like we're talking earlier about that key point, that issue, that many of us have figured out how to make money, either through jobs or through our abilities, through our talents, through our skills, through our know-how, whatever people do to get money. People rob banks, people do all kinds of things to get money. I think the missing link is knowing what to do with it.
What to do with it.
I think that is our failure in financial literacy, financial intelligence. Because if we know what to do with it, then even if we only have a little bit of it, we'll be able to multiply it. But if we don't know what to do with it, even if we have 100 million, 40 million, somebody's going to take it.
Fast, or we going to blow it.
That's right.
Somebody ain't got to take it.
That's right. We're going to give it away.
We're going to give it away. We're going to give it away.
Because we don't know what to do with it.
When you found out what to do with it, is that what led you towards your gold business?
Absolutely. And with Carrot Bars in particular and the acquisition of gold, I mean, the basis of Carrot Bars is gold acquisition. It's the acquisition of real money.
Real money. 24 karat gold. 999.9% pure gold. Okay, which is what currency used to be backed by. That's where the true value comes from. And gold has been recognized as money, as a genuine asset for thousands of years. I was going to say the kings and queens traded with it back in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah, all
so even if we go back to our roots in the motherland, like Mansa Musa,
absolutely,
who's considered to be actually the wealthiest person who have ever existed on planet Earth, far beyond. He would make people like who we consider to be wealthy now, like Buffett and Bill Gates and people like that. Compared to him, they're impoverished. Because if you look at wealth it's relative, right? So like the wealth that Bill Gates has, it's totally like trumps the wealth of, say, an Oprah, right? Financially, they couldn't live in the same neighborhood. She's a billionaire.
Right.
Yeah, but if you just have a few billion, you can't really keep up with the person who has tens of billions,
right,
who cannot keep up with the person who has hundreds of billions. So even wealth, there are divisions. Just like there are divisions of being a millionaire. So people pass that term around a lot. They say, oh, this person's a millionaire. Wow. But that is a very, very generic term, a millionaire. Because a millionaire, what does it mean to be a millionaire? To be a millionaire means that a person has at least $1 million in assets. It also doesn't mean cash. Most people...
That's what I was going to ask. If I had $1 million in the bank, does that make me a millionaire?
Right. That's a good question. Right? So it really means that you have $1 million in assets.
So, just to interrupt. So I can't have $1 million fiat currency dollars and truly be a millionaire.
Well, you could be considered a millionaire, but point being is that currency, remember, is subject to inflation, right?
Okay.
If inflation is at 3% a year, that means if I had $1 million sitting in a bank right now, today, inflation is affecting that $1 million. Already. So if also we understand that this paper currency is actually a tool which you should use to convert into asset producing properties. It's not something that you should covet, as we have been taught.
Because this is not an asset.
No. Ultimately, I mean, you could argue that it's an asset in one sense, but in another sense, it's really a tool that is meant to get you something else. Like, for instance, you can't eat it. You need food.
Right.
Okay, food is more valuable than money. If you had $1 million and you were hungry and you couldn't buy food, what would you do with the $1 million? It would not serve you any purpose. It's really just a tool to get you something of value. So unless you know what has true value, you're going to be chasing the ghost of the dollar. The dollar is a ghost. That's why, as far as I know, all the people who have chased the dollar have ultimately not had a successful life. They have not become wealthy. And those people who understood that once they captured that dollar, they then took that dollar and redirected it and converted it into some type of asset, they have become wealthy. So I think that's a missing link. Missing link is knowing what to do with the money. Most of us are so obsessed, fanatically obsessed.
Just trying to acquire it.
Just trying to get it. And then we think, again, what's the solution to my problem? Is to get more of it. More money, more money, more money. You know, it's just like a drug addict. The drug addict thinks the solution to his problem is more drugs.
More drugs.
And if I just had enough drugs,
right,
I wouldn't have to go out and rob people for it and all that. You know, I just need more. That is not the solution to your problem, is having more drugs. Nor is more money, unless you know what to do with it.
Okay.
Otherwise, it just becomes an addiction, which goes back to the esoteric understanding of money.
He breaking it down now, y'all.
Right?
He breaking it down.
You know, the esoteric, which I think is, which we should approach.
Wow.
The esoteric understanding of money and our relationship to it. It's an addiction. It's a very unhealthy addiction. When I'm pursuing something without any clear objective, it's like going to college and paying $60,000 a year and I have no idea what I want to study.
You just on campus hanging out.
You know what I'm saying? You are addicted to an illusion.
Right.
You should not go to a university and spend $60,000 and you don't even know what the hell you're there for. What is it that you're addicted to? Right? So, same thing with money. It's an addiction. It's an obsession. People kill for it and will kill for it.
Now that you've told us that gold is the way, I mean, I know, gold is like $1,500 an ounce. I mean, how do I get into the gold game?
Absolutely. Now that is something which this company, Carat Bars, has made accessible. They've made gold accessible because generally speaking, people have been priced out of the gold market. Because like you said, it's about $1,300, $1,400 an ounce. So how many of us have the appetite or the money,
capital, right? To get
capital to acquire gold? Most of us don't. Like I wouldn't. If I had to pay $1,300, I wouldn't be purchasing gold right now. It would just be too expensive for me. But in Carrot Bars, their theme is two. One is to help people get out of debt. Okay, the exact opposite of this.
This is debt.
Right.
This is debt. You get a bunch of these, you hold a bunch of debt.
It's
right?
debt. It's subject to inflation,
Right.
and it's owned by someone.
Right. This is someone's personal.
Yeah, this belongs to a bank, a government.
Yeah, government.
It's not mine.
Right.
For instance, if I were to burn this, it's actually illegal. I could actually be criminally punished
Wow.
because it's not mine.
It's not yours.
Exactly. If I burn my clothes, and nobody do nothing to me, they're mine. But that's someone else's property. Okay? Whereas when you acquire gold, it's yours.
Wow.
It doesn't belong to the Federal Reserve. It doesn't belong to the United States government. It belongs to you. So it behooves one to convert their cash into gold. Also, in Carrot Bars, you can purchase small quantities of gold.
Wow.
Like for instance.
Okay.
Like,
now we get into it. Now we get into it.
Like for
now
instance.
Wow.
There you go.
Now
this
what is this?
Is a gram.
That's a gram of gold.
Gold. 24 karat, 999.9% pure gold. Gold bullion. Okay?
Oh, wow.
And a gram of gold, mind you, is actually affordable. A gram of gold is around...
You can buy gold for a gram? I mean...
Per gram, you can even buy less than a gram. You can buy a tenth of a gram.
Wow.
A tenth of a gram of gold is probably about $5. Okay? And you're actually acquiring a genuine commodity, a genuine asset that has intrinsic value. Okay? It has intrinsic value. So you don't have to trade it for something else. It itself is
valuable.
Right. Internationally. No matter what country is arguing what country and what this currency is doing and who's going bankrupt, gold has intrinsic value.
Is it true you can take this around the world and
Absolutely.
shop anywhere?
Internationally.
Wow.
Internationally. Any gold market will accept gold bullion. 24 karat. So one of the brilliant things that they've done
9.9.
in Carrot Bars is make gold accessible to working class people.
Wow.
Make gold accessible to people like myself who could not afford to buy ounces of gold. But now I can afford to acquire gold in small quantities repetitiously. So I'm literally converting my fiat currency, my government-owned debt into a genuine asset.
Wow.
Okay? Because remember, acquiring assets is one of the most important elements of developing wealth.
You say building wealth.
You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. So, like myself, I studied from the esoteric all the way to the exoteric.
Okay.
So when you look at the whole picture, the true fundamental and the simplest understanding of wealth acquisition is to acquire assets. And if I'm not acquiring assets, I'm not acquiring wealth.
True assets.
True assets.
All right.
Then I'm not acquiring wealth, and I will have to work my entire life for money.
I can't do a whole lifetime chasing no dollar bills.
How about that? And then what about your children? You want to see them?
Are they even going to be worth, or the dollar bills that I save going to even be worth anything? When I've expired.
That's right. There's currencies collapse all the time.
I was told that throughout the history of time, it was 600 fiat currencies, and none of them to this day have survived. Is that true?
Absolutely. I've also heard the same thing.
Wow.
Absolutely.
No government's money to today in history has survived.
No. Even if they had a similar experience of hyperinflation in Germany, hyperinflation in a number of countries in South America. I even think Venezuela right now may also be going through this situation of hyperinflation, where hyperinflation means that you would need like $100,000 to buy a loaf of bread.
Wow.
Right, so that the currency becomes like practically useless.
Useless.
Because it has no intrinsic value.
Did you see that video on the internet and the kids are just playing with like a ton of money and they throwing it around?
No.
It's on the internet. I'm like, wow, what is, I don't know
what country was that?
I don't know, but I mean, apparently it wasn't worth anything.
Right.
Anything. Wow.
So that can happen at any time.
Anytime.
So acquiring genuine assets like gold, real estate, you see, these types of assets last in spite of whatever conditions may be going on in the economy. So this is basic financial intelligence, financial literacy, which we should teach our children so that they can break this cycle.
You taught a lot of people, like you said, from 7 to 70. Do people usually grasp the concept? How hard is this to teach?
Well, most people grasp the concept.
Okay, that's not the issue.
Yeah, that's usually not the issue. The issue is execution because of the programming. Because remember, now even once you grasp the concept, it doesn't mean that your programmers are going to stop. Your programmers are still there. You still got your educational institutions that's telling you, come here, get this degree. You get this degree, you can get a good job, son. You're going to get a shiny job with a nice office and, a nice cubicle and all this. And they're hanging, these little so-called attainments in front of us, dangling them, and we're in pursuit. We're in pursuit. They don't stop. They don't go away just because you got some financial literacy. They ain't backing off. They even might become even more intense because now you've been exposed. So similarly, you got the government, you have the entertainment industry that's creating all this fake artificial life that people are in pursuit of. That people,
want that shiny suit.
in the casino every day and they're at the club every day. And like nobody lives like that.
Right.
That is a fallacy. No one lives like that. No one's in a casino every day.
That's
at
right.
a club
New York
every
City.
day.
If you don't know, nobody knows.
It's a fallacy.
Right.
But see, the convenience of that fallacy is that if you believe that, you will work for the corporation. Now, if you take the word corporation and replace it with the word plantation,
woo, here we go.
Then you'll see everything from a different perspective.
Right. Wow.
So if someone told you, I want you to go to college and get a bachelor's degree so you can come work for the plantation, you lose your motivation, right?
Absolutely.
So I can't tell you that. And that's the duty of a magician. The duty of a magician.
He said the duty of a magician
is to create an
illusion
that you will believe.
That you will believe.
Because if you don't believe it, you're not going to be under their power. You're not going to be under their control. You're not going to respect them. You're not going to adore them. You're not going to follow instructions.
Strong, man.
So in order to get you to follow instructions, I have to get you to become submissive, right? And actually, there are two ways, basically, to hypnotize a person. One way is you get the person's permission.
Okay.
That's why you usually see like hypnotists in a public forum. They have the person there and they ask the person things like, okay, would you allow me to hypnotize you? The person has to say yes. If they say no, it's going to be very hard to hypnotize them. So they go along with it. They say, oh, okay, could you lift your arms up, put your arms down, open your eyes now, close your eyes. And what they're doing is they're getting you to agree with them, to follow their commands. Right. Once you follow their commands willingly, then they got you.
They got you.
Now, if a person doesn't want to be hypnotized, then one of the only ways to hypnotize them is through what's called a confusion technique.
What is that?
That means that you disorient the person. And if you confuse the person, you then open up a vulnerability in the person. Because now they're disoriented, they're confused. Now you can capture them.
They don't know which way to go.
Exactly. So now they're vulnerable. Once they lose their sense of balance and sense of equilibrium, that's the way you could force a person into submission. Because now they're confused, they're bewildered, they're disoriented. And then you can hypnotize them. Otherwise, you need their permission. So there's like two general ways. And the plantations use both ways.
I love that word. Not corporation, the plantation.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
And that will change your perspective because now you're changing the programming. See, that's a programmatic term, corporation. We've been programmed. That's what, when you go to the university, they're going to program that word. Corporation, the corporation, this corporation, this corporation. We're programmed. Oh yeah, that's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. I want to work.
A lot of people say that. Oh, I want to work for the big corporation. Yeah, I hear a lot of people saying that all the time.
That's right.
I never thought about that.
That's part of the mass.
Some people work their whole life to work for the big corporation.
That is just like I told you, the person who says I'd rather be a bum in New York City than to be successful somewhere else. They have been programmed that just being in New York is success. That in itself, you have nothing, you have no power, you have no control, you have no assets, you have nothing, but you're successful. Somebody fooled you.
Somebody fooled you. Have you been able to change a lot of people's lives with carrot boards?
Have I changed a lot of lives? I don't know if I've changed a lot, but I know people that I know and people in my circle, I have definitely introduced it to them.
Okay.
And many people have taken advantage and they see the value of it. The other beautiful thing about carrot bars is this acquisition of gold. So we're actually in the business of gold acquisition. Right. We're acquiring an asset, a genuine asset that is respected internationally. And there are other aspects of carrot bars as well, besides just the gold. So that acquisition of gold is actually a savings vehicle, which is something I also teach the people. Like I said, there are three things you should do with money. You should save, invest, and start a business, or a number of businesses. But we could then stop on each one of those and like go deep. Okay, now say what is saving? How do you save? What are different ways you could save? What's the best way to save? And we can get into that. And one of the best savings vehicle is gold. And the reason why is because gold holds its value throughout time. So even though inflation is there,
that's what I was going to ask.
3%, gold will hold its value. There's an analogy I've seen and heard, and you may have heard also, that approximately about 100 years ago, a truck was like worth $640 something.
Right.
Yeah. And an ounce of gold was worth $600 and something. Okay, that's 100 years ago. We fast forward. If you have $600 and something, you are not buying a truck.
A little truck, maybe.
A little Tonka.
Yeah.
Tonka truck, right? You would not be able. And why? Because the value of those dollars have decreased.
Let me ask you a question real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that gold if really like stayed the same and the dollar went down? Because I heard you saying that gold and the dollar is kind of one's up, one's down, but I've never really known gold to go down. So are you just saying that the dollar's shrinking, period?
The dollar has gone down over the past 100 years. It is documented, and I always encourage people, do your research.
Do your research.
Don't be,
you don't gotta listen to us,
like the person sitting in the pew that's just like, sucking it all in without ever reading the book.
Right.
It's okay. You can go and listen to the speaker.
Right.
But if the person is speaking some facts, do the research.
Do the research.
Check it out.
Check it out.
So Yes, it is a documented fact that the dollar, this thing right here, has lost approximately 98% of its value over the last 100 years.
98%?
98%.
In 100 years?
In 100 years.
Where are we going to be in the future?
That's a percent a year.
I was going to say, what are we going to be doing?
Well, we only got 2% left.
Yeah,
okay, so it's like, wise up. Wise up. Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
I like to tell them, stay woke.
Stay woke. We're in hot pursuit. We're not questioning what it is we're in pursuit of.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. And we've been pursuing this for decades. Over 100 years. We've been in pursuit. And then we have to ask ourselves, what is the result? Where is the result? Where is the concrete result? We need results.
Steve, we might got to make a part 2, man. My battery's extra low. We got 10% left.
You got it, sir.
Listen.
But like you said, that was it. That's the inverse relationship.
That is
Whereas
strong.
gold, if I finish that analogy, that same ounce of gold that was worth $600 and something 100 years ago is now worth $45,000.
What would you say to somebody who
it's a kilo of gold, actually.
Kilo of gold.
When I say an ounce, it's a kilo.
Kilo, right.
Kilo of
gold.
gold.
What would you say to a person who wants to get into this gold game? I mean, real fast, because we talk so much about financial literacy, wealth building.
I would say
I'm all in there. What do I do?
Yeah, I would say reach out. Reach out.
Is it that easy?
Absolutely, absolutely. They can contact your good self.
Absolutely. They can definitely get with Gold Savings. I don't know if they can see that. I'm a little short.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Reach out to any of us, and we're gonna have a link on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
A link,
absolutely.
Go through the link. At least investigate. Do some homework.
Also, if you need your taxes done too, this guy is the best financial guy on the block.
That's my business.
Power Tax LLC.
That's right,
Mr. Steve. I'd like to thank you. Can we get together on a part 2?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Okay. What about the trainings? When is the you starting a training program, right?
Yeah. Well, what I do now is it's called a money class. I do money class pop-ups.
Woo! Now I need a money class pop-up. Can you do pop-ups at my house?
Absolutely. And that's why they're called pop-ups. You know, so
that's
I keep it flexible. They're not in any particular place. You know, I pretty much go to the people where it is, so we can get a pop-up in to stimulate this monetary understanding and proper acquisition and proper utility of money, so we can end this madness of poverty and a lack of resources living in the quote-unquote world's richest country. The worst thing you could possibly do is live amongst luxury
and don't have
any.
Mr. Steve, that was strong, man. Do not get caught living in a world of luxury and you ain't got none, man. It just don't work out like that. Mr. Brown, how you doing? Mr. Miller, how you doing? Oh, man. My buddy Major's on the line. Look, I just want to tell y'all, if you need some financial literacy, GoldSavings.Info. We got the podcast. We got a Facebook page. We got a group. We got everything you need to get you all the financial leverage, literacy, wealth building. Anything you want to know, call me. I'm Mr. KC. I'm here with Mr. Steve. Power Tax LLC right here on Market Street. Talk to you soon. Thank you very much, sir.
Power up. Be powerful.
That's right. Pop up on this money tip too. If y'all want a money pop up, he's here.